Now, let's have a look at the UK, because the government there is in freefall. Since handing down a disastrous mini-budget last month, British PM Liz Truss has lost control of her own party. And today, the political turmoil continued, with Truss firing her Home Secretary, or at least losing her. It seems to be only a matter of time before the Tory Party push the Prime Minister out. She's only been in there a few weeks. Joining me now to discuss this is from the UK, live from the UK, is GB News host Calvin Robinson. Thanks for joining us, Calvin. Liz Truss lost her Home Secretary overnight your time, or late yesterday your time. Some scathing comments from her on the way out. The government's just falling apart around the new Prime Minister, isn't it?
It's absolutely shocking, yes. They lost Suella Braverman, who is one of only two Conservatives in this government. There's still Kemi Badenoch remaining, but there were very slim pickings to begin with. The reason she's gone, they're claiming, is technical. I don't think it is. I think it's because Suella Braverman actually wanted to cut immigration, which is something the British public have been voting for the last couple of decades. And Liz Truss and the remaining people in government want to increase immigration. They say it will spark growth, but the British public are not convinced. There's been a coup d'etat. You mentioned there that Liz Truss has lost control of her cabinet or her government. I don't think she ever had control. I think that's the reason she was selected. You know, they got rid of Boris Johnson, and I say they very loosely because there was a mainstream media campaign, a campaign by Labour and a campaign by the left wing of the party and the remainers of the Conservative Party. So a combined effort to get rid of Boris Johnson over a piece of cake, essentially. Of course, it was never about the cake. They succeeded in getting rid of Boris Johnson. And as soon as he was gone, they put the vote to the members, which is protocol, as part of the party's constituency, that they have to allow members to vote for the next leader. However, they didn't give us a list of leaders that we wanted. The party was very clearly in favour of a Conservative this time around, whether that was Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch, someone like that. Kemi Badenoch consistently had more votes than anyone else on Conservative Home. She was the favourite. So she didn't get the selection. The selection was whittled down by members of Parliament, Conservative members of Parliament, to two choices, either Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak. Now, they wanted Rishi Sunak, but they knew they couldn't get him. So they put him up against someone that they thought he could beat, Liz Truss. He still didn't beat her. But Liz Truss, it seems, is weak and more controllable. And they've essentially kicked out Liz Truss's choice as Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, who was very much aligned to her. She's essentially fired him, which is what we're hearing anyway, and replaced him with Jeremy Hunt, who is completely the polar opposite end of the spectrum.
What an absolute shambles and a ridiculous way to run these leadership contests. So many people must miss Boris Johnson now. Well, one of Boris Johnson's great heroes, of course, was Winston Churchill, who famously said, "When you're going through hell, keep going." And that's what Liz Truss is trying to do. Let's have a look at what she's had to say.
I am sorry and that I have made mistakes. But the right thing to do in those circumstances is to make changes, which I've made, and to get on with the job and deliver for the British people.
Calvin, we don't have much time, but very quickly, is there any chance she can hang on? How long do you think she'll last?
No chance she can hang on. It's a matter of when, not if, she leaves. I'm not convinced she'll see the week out. That's how dire this situation is.
Extraordinary stuff. Thanks for joining us, Calvin. I appreciate it. Calvin Robinson giving us the dire situation for the Tory government in the UK at the moment.